Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode on the Unleashing Potentials podcast. My name is 𝐒𝐿nette and I'm your host. And joining me today is Lynette Williams. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Where about are you tuning in from?
I'm in Florida. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah, I get to live my best life here. It's
Yeah,
hot, but I love it.
nice. That's really cool. You guys get all the four seasons too, right?
Yes. Oftentimes people think, oh, it doesn't get cold in Florida, but when you live in a state where the humidity is basically 99% all the time, as
Yeah.
soon as the temperature drops into the 60s, it's cold here. Like it feels really cold, like it could snow. It's crazy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, we do get lots of snow here. I'm in Canada and it gets bitter cold.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a baby. I don't think I could handle it at
Yeah.
this point because I got really used to the heat so fast. So, our short little winters that we do have here, when it gets, into the 60s, I'm freezing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. So Lynette, can you tell us what is your story and what is it that you do?
Sure. Yeah. So, I'm a homeschooling mom. God called me to business in 2018. It was definitely not my plan. It was all him because it's not something that I would have considered doing for myself. My background is in social media marketing and content strategy. And then most recently, he has called me to pivot to speak more to the inner healing aspect of it, right? So I taught for many years on kind of the steps of marketing and how to put yourself out there and how to grow your business. But what I found was it wasn't enough just to teach the steps and tell people how to make money online. Really, there's that underlying issues of like imposter syndrome, right? Where you don't even feel comfortable being vulnerable online or showing up, putting your face out there, different things that at the beginning of my business journey, I wasn't quite equipped to guide and lead on, you know? But now that I've been doing this for so long, God was like, okay, it's time to go deeper. Like, it's time to really help them heal, right? Get over the fear, get over the imposter syndrome, get over the anxiety. And that's where they're going to find the freedom. And from that place, you can work with pretty much anybody that can give you the strategy and give you the steps, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. You touch on three things that are so important. First of all, how are you continuing to survive homeschool?
Well, now that my girls are in middle school and high school, it's a lot easier because we've transitioned them to do their computer work. And so even though I'm home with them, I'm not having to be their teacher anymore. So that's a huge burden, lifted off of me. And I get a lot of time back that way, right? But also, we have homeschool days where we go to a co-op is what it's called, right? And so we meet with other homeschooling families and they do school there as well. And so again, that's lessening the burden of what we have to do at home. Oftentimes people think, oh, homeschooling, and when all you know is public school, you kind of think, oh, that's the format and that's the structure at home. But the beauty of homeschooling is you have so much flexibility. And so I'm not having to school 5 days a week for 6 to 8 hours a day. That's not what homeschool looks like, at least for us. I don't think that would make me happy at all. But
Yeah.
having the flexibility, getting out of the house 2 days a week to do school really means that when we're home, we have way more time to have fun or go and do things that we want to do. And I let my kids sleep in because that's another perk of homeschooling, right? They
Yeah.
don't have to get up and catch the bus at 6 a.m. And so a lot of times I will do my work in the mornings before they even wake up. And so then my afternoons, I'm generally free to do what they want to do.
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing because I know the process is so different for everybody.
Yeah.
Would you say that there are some shred of misconceptions, to those parents who homeschool, versus, sending their kids to public school?
Absolutely. I mean, because you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And so it's easy to just sort of just apply what you do know and just say, oh, it looks like this because this is what I know. But that's just not the case. Like I said, you have so much flexibility. By law, at least here in the United States, I can't speak for Canada, but here in
Mhm.
the US, children only have to attend school 180 days a year. And a school
Oh,
day is
wow.
considered, I believe, 3 or 4 hours a day, right? So if you do
Yeah.
the math, that's like 6 months of school. And
Yeah.
so we kind of adopted a year-round program. I give my children like a month off in July just because it's so hot. And by
Yeah.
that point, like they're really over school. But aside from
Mhm.
that, the rest of the year, we're schooling at least part-time. And so maintaining 2 or 3 days a week
Mhm.
for, 3 hours a day really gives us all of the schooling that we need. Plus, when you give your children one-to-one attention,
Mhm.
for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours a day,
Yeah.
you are just pouring into them and giving them an accelerated lesson, right? Versus a, a teacher at school with 25 or 30 students, each child maybe gets 2 minutes of personal attention, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where you really start to see the multiplication, right? And the acceleration of their learning. And so, that's how I'm able to keep my children not just on track, but really ahead of schedule in terms of other kids their age.
Yeah, yeah. Let's say people are watching this and they've been thinking about homeschooling their kids and they're scared because either criticism, judgment, or
Oh, yeah.
they just don't feel that they have the confidence to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Or if they do it, like me, the kids will want to just be plugged to the TV, to YouTube or other social media platforms. What are some advice that you'd give them in terms of routine and structure that they could start to start that process of homeschooling?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So I can remember being terrified for all of those same reasons. Honestly, I was just like, how does one even do this? Am I qualified? Who am I to teach my kids? Like, do I need an education degree? Like this is crazy, right? And another question I get asked a lot is about the socializing.
Mhm,
So let's tackle both of those.
mhm,
A daily schedule for homeschooling really can look like however you want it to look. If you have multiple children, I would even recommend, dedicating one day a week to each child. Don't feel like you have to school every child all day long, every day of the week, because that's a lot for you as the mom, right? Like I said earlier, by spending that one-on-one time with your child, their learning is accelerated. So you can really decrease in your mind how many hours you think you have to spend educating them during the week compared to going to public school, right? So
mhm,
that's first off. Secondly, I schooled for probably 7 or 8 years on workbooks. They never touched a screen because I wanted them to learn how to hold a pen properly, right? And a pencil and do their math paper to pen. That's very important to me that they have good handwriting, right?
mhm.
And different things like that, like and develop those fine motor skills. So
Yeah.
you don't have to do it online if you don't want to, especially if you're a mom who's like, I'd rather not have my kids on screens all day. I totally agree and I respect that. There's so much flexibility with homeschooling, right?
Mhm,
Then talking about the socializing aspect, because that was a big, big confusion for a lot of people, right? And concern, even with my own family, as far as like, how are the children going to develop and how are they going to be in society if they homeschool? Which is where co-ops come in. And we've been enjoying co-ops since we started homeschooling. It allows the children to spend time with other children. It puts them in a classroom environment where they are having to be respectful and obey their teacher, right? And learn their manners and focus on those social aspects of learning in a group and having relationships with other children their age, right? And all
mhm.
of those things. So honestly, if you were to meet my children, you wouldn't even know that they were homeschooled because they're very social. We're active in our church, so they're always around other children.
Mhm.
And I honestly, what I enjoy the most is seeing groups of homeschool kids playing together, like the older kids with the smaller kids and vice versa, and everybody's getting along and having a good time. It's really something beautiful to see.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing and clarifying. I hope that was helpful to someone who's been watching. I know it's helpful to me, so thank you. You talk about your faith. What does your faith mean to you? Were you always a believer? Did you grow up in a household of believers?
Yes. Yes. So I did. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a house where we were going to church every Sunday. As an adult, really right when I left home for college, I chose to change churches. I had grown up Catholic and I chose to go to a Protestant church on my own as an adult. But that's pretty much the furthest I got away um, from God because, yeah, He's always been a part of my life. I've always been a believer, and I just really wanted to know Him more and go deeper. And so I felt like leaving organized religion, leaving the Catholic Church really helped me to solidify a personal relationship with Jesus on my own terms. And that's
Yeah.
something that I've never regretted.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you for sharing. Sorry. I had to get some water. Every time I have to do interviews, my throat, it does something. And then I'm trying to speak. I'm like, okay, I need water.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. So, how do you minister the word of God to your kids and also your community?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So, my children have a Bible class as part of their curriculum, and then we also do a daily Bible study at home, just because I think it's so important as parents, especially believing moms, right? We need to be setting that example for our children, right? And just like I would monitor what they're watching on TV, right? And watch with them and be there in case they had questions or, to cut the TV off if it's something inappropriate. I feel like biblical discipleship is the same way that we should be doing it with them. We should be the example, but we should be guiding them, but also participating alongside. And so that's what we do is a daily Bible study as a family. And then, as I said, they have a Bible class as part of their school curriculum.
Mm, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing. What are some hard times that you know that God has brought you through in your life?
Oh my gosh, where do we want to start? My whole life is a testimony. I've had a series of physical challenges with different diagnoses, different, things that have happened in my life that the God has healed me of, every single one of them. Praise Jesus.
Mm,
Um, my husband went through something very severe. Let's see, what year are we in? We're in 2025. So this was back in 2014.
mhm,
So 11 years now. He was set on fire at work and he burned 40% of his body. The doctors prepared me for worst case scenario that he could just die in his sleep. He would be disabled for the rest of his life, not able to have function of his arms or hands or things like that, right? They prepared me for a long stay in the hospital, multiple infections post surgery for his skin grafts and things like that. And God just showed up and showed out. I mean, he came home after 2 weeks. He has 100% mobility. If you look at him, most people can't even tell that he was burned as badly as he was, Of course, to him, he sees it and he's like, I
mhm,
don't see how other people can't see it, but he
mhm.
really did heal very nicely. Um, and now he has this incredible, incredible testimony to share with the world, about how God healed him and used him during that time to minister to others who were also in the same situation. Unfortunately, it was really sad. It was hard, but because of his faith, he was able to encourage others.
Wow. That is a
Mhm.
testimony.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, you have
Yeah.
to hear it sometime because obviously he tells it better from his point of view. But
Mhm,
it's really incredible. It's just really incredible what the Lord has done. He's just so faithful. He's so good.
mhm.
And I could, just go on about all the things that he's done for us and for our family. He really is just truly worthy, right, to
Wow.
be praised and honored for sure.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for sharing. So, has your husband been sharing his story on other platforms, or how is he sharing it?
He shares it, one to one. He's a talker. My husband never meets a stranger. If he says he's going to go out for milk, the man is gone for hours. And I just know that he met somebody at Publix and he is just talking and talking and talking, right? But while he was healing, at the hospital, they actually asked him to come back several times to speak to their group that they had, like their support group for burn victims. So he went and he shared his testimony there. He definitely had multiple opportunities to encourage others and share during physical therapy because he went to physical therapy for months. He had like hundreds of physical therapy sessions to regain mobility. So this was, a long, long process. Um, and pretty much everybody that he meets, anybody that has where he knows, okay, this person has also been a burn victim, they have something immediately in common, right? And so he's able to share his story. The medic drivers, he couldn't drive for a very long time. And so he would get picked up and have drivers take him to his doctor's appointments. So he would share his testimony with those people as well, So he's always looking for opportunities. He
Mhm.
has since been ordained as a pastor, and so he's also shared from the pulpit his testimony.
Wow, that's
Mhm.
really cool. That's how God works, and it shows.
Yes,
Sometimes we don't always feel his presence, especially through difficulties. I can attest to that. I don't always feel him, but somehow I know there's something there.
always,
Something I
always.
don't
I mean,
understand is always there.
yeah, I mean, look at the book of Job, right? Job went through that. Anytime I'm suffering or I'm having a hard time, I go back through Job. I read the Psalms of David.
Hmm.
You know, God does not promise us an easy life. If anything, it's the opposite, right? He prepares us and warns us that we're going to have trials and tribulations, right? And things are going to be hard. But he does promise that he will never leave us or forsake us. And as long as we continue to seek him and search for him and draw on his comfort in those times of need,
Hmm.
that's when you discover his faithfulness and that he never leaves us.
Yeah.
I had to do this many times in my life, between, different physical ailments that I went through. Obviously, the challenge when my husband was battling for his life, you go through dark seasons, but his word, and this is this beautiful part of living in America, living in Canada, where you have the freedom of religion. Let's not take it for granted that we have the access to the Bible at any time and we can open his word, and that's where he is. I always tell people, if you can't find him in the world, there's a reason for that because you will find him in his word.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, you touch on something very important, freedom of religion, because there are places in the world that you don't speak of that. You just quietly believe. You can't even
Mhm.
carry a Bible around, let alone talk to people about the Word of God. So that's important, definitely.
It is. It is important. And I never forget that. I never take it for granted. I can just wake up in the morning, grab my Bible, turn on YouTube, and watch a devotional, and I never
Yeah.
want to take that for granted. And I think sometimes it's easy to do that because it's so readily available.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you for sharing. You talked earlier about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? I think I know the meaning of it, but
Sure.
where are you coming from with it? What are your perspective on it?
Sure, sure. So oftentimes, our identity and who we believe we are, right,
Hmm.
can be so encompassed with lies. The enemy loves to lie to us about our identity. He loves to lie to us about what we're worth, right? And our calling, and if we're good enough. And we see this showing up just like with your question about homeschooling, right? It can come up when you start fearing and doubting. So that's basically what imposter syndrome is when you have fear, anxiety, doubt about taking action,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Taking the next step towards what you say you want.
Mhm.
And so, like, you desire to homeschool, but you feel like you're not equipped to homeschool, or you desire to start your own business, but you feel like you're not equipped, right? And I can totally relate because that's what held me back for so long. And that's something that God had to work through me and help me to realize what it is, understand how to get out of it, right? And
Mhm.
then now I teach others how to set themselves free from it because truly it is a form of spiritual attack. Because what has happened over time is that you have let go of the truths and the promises that God has spoken over you and the authority that we have as Christians and believers in Jesus. And we have come into agreement with the lies of the enemy, and we're in a prison of our own minds, and sometimes we don't even realize it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh, I can relate to that in so many aspects and areas of my life. One of them is podcasting. Another one is I paint. So there are times I question, compare, and it's a muscle that I think all of us need to continue to exercise every day. It's not gonna get easy right on the spot because we think of it. It's like wrestling with the flesh. I think there's a
Yes.
Bible verse that mentioned that, just wrestling with it.
Yep, it's true. It's true. Comparison is the thief of joy, right?
Yeah.
And I have seen that it's like a plague on social media because I feel like that platform is just right for comparison, you know. Here
Mhm.
we are in our daily real life, right? At
Mhm.
home, and the kids are running around and the house is a mess, and then you go on Instagram and you're comparing your real life with somebody's Instagram feed, and that's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I AI doesn't really make it easy. I'm sort of for and against AI, mostly against because of
Mhm.
what it's doing. You don't know who you're talking to. People don't look like they're supposed to. Yes, I like that it helps, like Chat GPT. It's good because it gives you ideas, but also I think we need to exercise our brain power and muscle to not let our ideas die. We can also
Yes.
blend it with structure, if I may put it that way.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I'm kind of like torn on it myself as a Christian because I'm just like, I know that this is not real. This is not real. And I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying about using your brain. I have a friend who's a copywriter, and she said to me, I feel like I need to stop using Chat GPT and other AI for writing because it's making me lazy and I'm not using my brain. And I said to her, that's how you feel, then that's what you need to do. Right. I'm just old enough to where I learned how to do everything old school, you know, but I did learn how to Google in high school. So I'm actually pretty good at finding what I need to find on the internet, um, which is not AI necessarily, but so I can see both sides. Yes, the allure of the convenience of it and how it makes, especially like certain things with business, so much easier and faster. But what's the price that we're paying, right? If we're giving up our human creativity. You know what I'm saying? Like, and being in business as long as I have been at this point before AI really took over, especially for content, I look back at some of the things that I've written in the past and I'm just like, wow, this is so good, right? And I think somewhere along the way, I have lost that confidence a little bit of how good I can do on my own, right? Because it's just so easy to pull up chat and just type in a few words and have it do the rest, right?
Yeah.
So I can see both sides for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. So when it comes to social media marketing, how do you help people?
Yeah, so I help people by just basically educating them on the simplest, easiest, most effective way to use it for business. Because pretty much that's how I know how to use it. I was never really one for social media before I started a business. I don't even have an Instagram account right now. I knew nothing about Instagram. I had only ever been on Facebook since I was in college, and you had to be a college student to be on Facebook. That's how long I was on Facebook.
Okay.
And even then, I only had some high school friends and college friends on my account, right? And so I basically just teach other business owners how to use it for business. Um, Coming from a background of that's really all I know, right? Because
Mm,
I'm not an influencer. I'm not putting my life on there. I use it for business. And so over the years, because I have kids and I homeschool, I
mhm.
didn't want to spend all of my time on social media. So I have a system that's very simple, very easy, that basically just takes advantage of automation, just letting your audience sort of take themselves where you want them to go, right? Like, yes, you're guiding them. Yes, you're leading them into a funnel, quote unquote, if your audience is familiar with that term. Um,
Mhm.
but like I said, really utilizing the parts of the platform that help your audience guide themselves. So they're not relying on me to send links or respond to messages, right?
Yeah.
This way you can post your content and go about in your life, right? You're not having to sit there and reply to every comment.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah. I do everything by myself. I have systems though, so it doesn't consume me or take over my time because
Yeah, that's
I
so
just have different
necessary.
ways of doing it. I don't
Mhm.
just sit there for hours and trying to figure out, hey, how I'm gonna do this. I have structure, and I think that helps a lot.
It has to. There's no, I would not, it's not good for your mental health to be on social media 24/7. It's just
Mhm.
not good for you. So I would not recommend it. I would say every good business owner is going to be supported with systems and automation, right? Which I guess is kind of a form of AI, but that has existed for a lot longer than this new stuff, right? So I always say automate anything and everything that you possibly can. This way, you're not having to spend all of your time on social media. So thank God for landing pages, right? And websites, right?
Yeah.
And links and contact booking and things like that. Thank God, because otherwise, I don't think I would be here because I'm
Yeah,
not trying to give up my whole life
yeah.
for my business. I want my business to thrive so I can live my life. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, thank you for sharing. How would you say perfectionism and anxiety and fear, they're all connected somehow. They're like
Yeah. Oh
distant
yeah.
cousins.
Oh
How,
yeah.
yeah, how would you say that impacts someone's calling in life?
Yeah. So this is huge. This is huge because this is something else that God really had to walk me through and help me to see how
Mhm.
perfectionism was really holding me back. And so you mentioned how they're kind of distant cousins and they work together. And that's very true because perfectionism really is tied to anxiety. And the way that they're connected is that your brain says, okay, I know that these certain things cause anxiety for me. And so what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and control every single situation and all of these different scenarios and perfect them, right? This is where like that performance comes in. I'm going to perform at the highest level and make everything perfect so that I won't get anxious. But that's just not sustainable. That's just not real, right? And when you don't deal with the anxiety and you don't understand why am I anxious? Like where's the fear coming from, right? You're trying to suppress the fear with control and perfectionism. And that just does not work. It just doesn't work. You've really got to tackle it head on. You've really got to face your fears, overcome your fears, and then you'll find that you're not anxious anymore. And then once you've removed that anxiety, guess what? You've also removed that pressure to be perfect.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it really starts, it's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
Once you've taken down the fear, it's like the anxiety and the perfectionism gets knocked down along with it. So it's really
Mhm.
beautiful. And this is, again, something that the Lord has walked me through. So I understand how hard it can be. And I understand how, even though we think that, and we can convince ourselves that, oh, perfectionism helps me to be better, it really is not. It's really hurting you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Yeah, because painting, I really had to ease on doing that to myself. It's something I just naturally do, but I'm learning to just ease up a little bit and allow myself to be human, to make mistakes, and to just not compare because I'm the only person like myself in the world. There's no one else. Someone may carry my name, but they're not me, right?
Yep.
In your opinion, how can we claim and hold on to our identities as believers or just human beings? Maybe someone's not a believer, but all of us have identities. And at times I think we lose that. And that's when we lose ourselves. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, obviously, as a believer, the one place I'm going to tell you to go to is the Bible, right? There's so many accounts of biblical characters in there, right? That God has used, even though they're not perfect. And that was a huge blessing for me to see that God can use you even though you're not perfect, right? And once I saw that, I was just like, oh, I don't have to be perfect to be used, right? It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. It was very freeing for me. And so that would be my advice, right? Even if you're not a believer, this is a great time. It's a great time for you. Get in the word and see what God says about you, right? In Jeremiah 1:5, it talks about how God had a plan for Jeremiah before he was even born, before he was even in his mother's womb, right? He was called and he was equipped. And honestly, for me, that took away all of my excuses because I was like, oh, I have a calling on my life. God has a plan for me in my life that he set in place, outside of time and space, and all I have to do is be obedient and walk in it. And honestly, that revelation took away so much panic, right?
Mhm.
Um, and just allowed me to just trust him and take things day by day instead of feeling like I have to know the beginning from the end and I have to know exactly what's going to happen and where I'm going and what I'm doing.
Mhm.
Now I just operate from faith of like, okay, what do you want me to do today? And as long as I do what you've called me to do today, tomorrow is going to figure itself out.
Yeah, 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 that's true. Yeah. Sounds like a Bible verse because what did it say? To not worry about what we're gonna wear, eat. Is it Matthew's, I think?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
true. It's
yeah.
true.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the word tells us. Yes, to focus on his kingdom and what he's doing and trust
Hmm.
that the day to day, the food, the money, the provision, he's our provider. And when you trust that, again, the anxiety just eases, right? We don't feel like we have to perform. We don't feel like it's all on us to make things happen. He's already done everything that needs to be done to make it happen, quote unquote. We get to be part of the story that he's already written. And that's so humbling and so exciting at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. Thank you for sharing. Talk to us about healing. I love healing. That is the core and center of my podcast because I think it's so powerful. At times we underestimate our power. We have so much power, and it's at times sad to see that people are not stepping into it. They're not
Yes,
unleashing it, and they're not using it. What are your
I
thoughts on that?
agree. I could not agree more. I could not agree more, especially from somebody who has been healed from everything that has ever tried to attack me physically, emotionally, mentally. I believe in the power of healing. I'm here today
Yeah,
telling you that God heals today. He
yeah,
performs those miracles today. I don't care what the doctors say, they're not God. And from what I know of God, from my experience with Him with healing, that is His heart. That is His desire. Are there exceptions? Yes, there are exceptions. But the people in my life who I know have faced terminal illnesses and are now in the presence of Jesus, even on this side, they had peace and they had joy. And so, what I always say is if it's not good, then He's not done,
yeah.
because even if it's not his will to heal you on this side of heaven, his gift to you will be peace and joy. So if you're not feeling at peace and you don't have joy in your circumstances, it's because God is still working on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. I want to be like Joe, but I don't want to experience what he experienced.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? Exactly, right. When I read about the parable of the sower and Jesus is talking to the disciples, right, and telling them how they're going to inherit a hundredfold, it's easy to
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I want that too. I want a hundredfold. I want to go to heaven and have that." But you have to understand to get that hundredfold, we're talking about losing your home, losing your
Mm,
property, losing everything that you have financially, losing your life, being a martyr.
mm,
And so then God is like, "Okay,
yeah.
reframe, ask that question again. Do you really want a hundredfold? Because it costs something."
Hmm. Yeah. 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 I agree. Yeah. And at times the price is a lot to bear.
Yes, it is. But he always gives above and beyond the cost, right? It's just a matter of the timing. And I say this all the time because people ask me this question a lot because of my testimony with healing. And I always tell them it's timing. When you want a blessing, excuse me, when you want a blessing from God, he requires the payment up front. Whereas when the devil is giving you a blessing, he
Mm-hmm.
will use the blessing as the lure to trap you and entice you. But the cost for the blessing from the devil is more than you ever want to pay. But with God, the blessing is so much substantially more than the cost.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing. Do you have any memberships or anything coming up?
I do actually. I do. I will be launching a new membership that's going to be a deep dive into all of this inner healing, perfectionism, anxiety, imposter syndrome. It's a 12-month membership so that women who come in don't feel like, oh, I have to rush and I have to learn everything in 12 weeks and I'm paying so much money and I have to, learn it all and do it all in such a short amount of time. No, we're going to go gently. We're going to go easy. We're going to take our time. We're really going to dig deep into what's truly holding you back. Because honestly, once you've done that work, I promise you the ins and outs and the steps of marketing will make so much more sense and it will not be anywhere near as overwhelming. But if it feels to you like you're standing in front of a train to think about going live on Facebook, the steps of how to do it, right? And just dangling that shiny carrot of 5 clients in 30 days, that just isn't going to work for you if your nervous system is still wired to be afraid of that. You know what I'm saying? And
Oh,
so
yes, I do.
that's what we're going to be talking about. That's what we're going to be going deep into. And you've got 12 whole months. It's completely affordable and you're going to be transformed.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. It reminds me, as you were talking, many, many people have fear of speaking,
Mhm.
speaking in front of people, speaking in public. I think it's a very common fear.
Absolutely, it's common. And again, this is what I've been through, right? So I'm not
Mm,
standing here teaching something or educating you, not fully having experienced it myself. When I was in college, I changed my major from business to accounting so that I wouldn't have to take public speaking. And
mm.
then God called me to start a business and told me to do it on Facebook. And I had never gone live in my life. And it felt like the scariest thing I'd ever done, right? So I understand. I understand.
Yeah.
And it's not about being like me, it's about overcoming these fears.
Yeah, 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 beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So as
Mhm.
we wrap up, I have two questions for you.
Okay.
Can you tell us where can people find you on social media? How can people connect with you?
Sure. So I am on Facebook. I'm on Facebook only. I keep a small profile online. You can find me Facebook at Lynette Laptop Mommas or on my website, laptopmommas.com. That's
Yeah.
it.
Oh, I love that you just, you just
Yes.
stayed in a specific niche. I'm all over the place. At times it's very stressful because I'm trying to share one video on what feels like 20 different platforms or methods. So I like
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that works for a lot of businesses as you scale. And if you have a team and you're duplicating your hours that way, right? I always tell
Mhm.
people, don't be fooled by the seven-figure business owner who says they only work 2 or 3 hours a day because they have a team. And you need to think about the cumulative hours, right? They're only working 2 or 3 hours a day because their team is putting in the other 400 to 500 a week to make all of their content and be in all the places.
Yeah.
Again, comparison trap, right?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
so I don't do that to myself. Nope. I show up where I want to show up, which is Facebook,
Yeah.
and the rest of the time I'm living my best life. And if you need me, guess what? That's what my website's for.
Yeah. 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 I love that. Thank you for sharing. Last question for you. What is the meaning of life for you?
Oh my gosh. The meaning of life is to fulfill the purpose that God has planned for me since before I was born. So
Mm.
it's really discovering his plan for me and walking in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Well, Lynette, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Thank you for blessing us with not only your testimony, but your husband's testimony and just the work that God is continuing to do in your life. And thank you for reaching out and inspiring. And yeah, I just love your story and what you do.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure, Bernadette. I really enjoyed the time to speak with you, and I hope that this conversation will bless your audience.
You're welcome.